Hello, QVS AP Comparative Government students. I wanted to welcome you to week 2 of the course, Essential Unit 1. And in doing so, I also want to commend you on the hard work from last week and encourage you to move into this next week with the same degree of focus and excitement for the class. In week 1, we covered a lot of different things. You learned the structure of the exam by taking a mock exam and also by looking at those two introductory activities where you learned about the two parts of the AP Comparative Government exam. I hate to sit here and always emphasize like this test and all of that, but again, I think one of the most easiest ways for you to become comfortable with this test that you will take in May is just to understand the structure and format. So that was the whole purpose of those first couple days last week. So you became familiar with the structure. You know that half of the exam will be multiple choice, and then the other half of the exam is made up of 4 free response questions. Maybe you couldn't answer those free response questions. Some of you gave them a good effort. So again, I can commend you on that. But if you couldn't answer them, it is of no matter. Of course, we will learn these concepts throughout the year. So thanks for just looking at them and trying. In regards to like learning these concepts, and as we moved into week 1 and we looked at the science of politics and the methods that political scientists use in order to gather information. That's kind of what you're doing this year. Think of yourself as a political scientist. And I read in the comments or the introductions that many of you are interested, and a lot of you have participated in Model United Nations. So that's a good thing. So your job this year is going to be to, gather data and look for information that would enlighten you on the 6 course countries and how they are structured politically. Now, with that in mind, week 2 is all about those 6 course countries, or at least we're going to create a foundation for them. I don't expect you to learn all of the ins and outs of each of them just in this one single week, but you'll see with the activities that I designed, it's more in an effort to just kind of give you an introduction to them. And do know that throughout the year, we will look more closely at the political structure and the elections and the ins and outs of each of these course countries. But this next week is really just to create that foundation. But before we move on and look at the course page and discuss those assignments for next week, I just kind of want to go back once again to some of the items that you focused on in week 1. You learned about some of the early political scientists and even some more recent trends in the study of political science. But it's important for you to understand that foundation with thinkers like Machiavelli and what the concepts that he applied to the state, along with Locke and Hobbes and some of those enlightened thinkers that really set the foundation for how the state has transformed over the past couple hundred years. So in looking at that, I think my final question to all of you was, if you had to do an evaluation of all of those thinkers, which do you believe would most greatly have impacted the study of political science? And of course, there's many different answers to that question, but the whole purpose in me asking something like that is to develop your argumentation skills. That will become very valuable on the 4th FRQ on the AP Comparative Government exam. It's all about argumentation, you being able to consider opposing viewpoints or multiple perspectives, and for you to make a claim and then develop an argument in support of the claim with valid historical and political evidence to support whatever claim that you have derived. So that when I do activities like that, it's really to help you develop those skills that you will use later on on the AP exam. So I just want to point that out as being one important item from last week's activities. And the other important thing being country comparison. That's why moving into this week, what we're going to do is something that you really need to focus on, creating that foundation of the 6 different course countries. And again, we'll get to that in a little bit as we move further into week 2 and I go to the course page and explain to you what your responsibilities are for the week. Before we do that though, a lot of you were asking about the notes, and I want to emphasize that notes are due at the end of the unit. You are welcome to adopt whatever note-taking style you are most comfortable with. I do have some note-taking templates on the course page. It doesn't mean that any of them are required. Looking forward to the end of the unit, you will have a unit test over that introductory chapter in the O'Neill textbook. So it is important that you take notes and you read that textbook. That is not in week 2, that is in week 3, and I will discuss that more in my video message next week. But it's good to have it kind of in the back of your head that this is coming up soon, okay? So I mentioned notes. The other thing I want to mention before going to the course page are those activities that we call SCORM packages. And I want to emphasize the importance of internet connectivity and that you report those scores properly. Otherwise, you're going to notice in the gradebook that your points aren't changing. Some of you have written to me, Mrs. Sedmak, when I click the submit button, all of my answers disappear and I don't know if you're getting them. I do get them as long as you do click the right buttons throughout the activities. So I just want to emphasize how important it is that whenever you type in a free response answer, there's always a button at the end that says finish. You always have to click that, and then that's when your answer disappears. And then as you move through the activity from page to page, on the very last page, there's another button where you type your name in, and then you click submit an email score report. And when you do that, that's when I get an email with all of your answers. And then that's when I kind of read through your answers and then add points to your total score. Some of you might see that I've written a message in the gradebook that says, be sure to click the submit button. It means that I didn't get that email with your answers. So sometimes that happens when internet connections are poor or you just simply forget to click that button. So I want to emphasize the important note about that and those assignments. If you feel like your answers aren't being saved, you can always make a screenshot of your answers or type them in Word and then copy paste them into the SCORM. You can kind of keep like a running total of your work on those different SCORM assignments if you feel like the technology is not working in your favor. But I think for the most part, it's been okay for everyone. You know, the first week, it's just kind of a learning week, and you will become more comfortable with these types of activities quite soon. So we're going to go to the course page. I want to explain week 2 and talk about what your responsibilities are as we move forward in this unit. Okay, hopefully now on your screen you can see those week 2 assignments, and hopefully you've stayed on pace in week 1 because we're going to move into learning about the 6 different course countries. So what are they? Can you remember them? They are China, Russia, the United Kingdom, Nigeria, Iran, and Mexico. Okay, so those are the 6 countries that act as the basis for this class. We will be studying their political structure and model elections, leaders, how those leaders create and maintain legitimacy, all of that and so much more, whether they are democratic or more authoritarian. That is our goal for this year, learning as much as we can about the political states that exist in those 6 course countries. But of course, you have to understand that much of the politics that exist in each of those states are dependent upon other factors, population being one of them, the geography of the surrounding area of those states being another, and the recent history. So that's really the goal for this week, to get you to have an understanding of those features of those different countries. So we're going to begin with demographics, and this is all about population and what the population of a country over time can say about that political state. So you're going to see that the first group of activities will all be all about population pyramids. And I love population pyramids. They divide the country's population by sex, so you have male and female. They also divide the population by generation, so you have different age groups presented on a population pyramid. And I say they can tell you so much about the country because depending on the shape of the population pyramid, you can see if the country is developing or more developed or going into a post-industrial state. And that depends if they're pyramidal, columnar, or inverse pyramid, I guess you would say. If you've never used population pyramids before, the whole first activity is an introduction. There's a little video in there that explains how to read them. And then in the second activity, you'll just do a simple analysis of some population pyramids that I threw together. This not being about the 6 course countries necessarily, but lots of different countries that have some strange shaped, or I shouldn't say strange, that's very maybe judgmental, unique shaped population pyramids, and why that may be the case. It's in this third activity where we're actually going to look at the 6 course countries, and you're going to put together, let's see, it's 18 different population pyramids, because you're going to go 50 years back, you're going to go to the present, and 50 years ahead for each of the 6 course countries. And there's a really cool website that's called a population pyramid generator, and it will create those pyramids for you for the 6 course countries. So really, you just have to type in years and names of states and do some screenshots to get them. It's not like you have to draw them out. And then in gathering those population pyramids, you have to draw conclusions like what's going on in each of the countries based on the data that you can see. And this is more like that quantitative method, I guess you could say, of a political scientist. So we'll be looking at a lot of data in these first few activities. And then we'll move into the qualitative when we look at the geography of the 6 course countries and mapping the course countries. So you're familiar with some of the other countries that surround them and some of the physical features. I also teach AP Human Geography, and I really do emphasize how geography impacts the development of a state, whether a country is landlocked or if it has coastal regions and access to the outside. So if you don't know a lot about the course countries and their geography, it's part 2 of week 2 that you really need to pay attention to. You'll watch some Geography Now videos and collect some information about them, and then you'll do an analysis, like what are the advantages and disadvantages of each of the 6 course countries' geography. And then we finally move into the latter part of the week where we are looking at recent history. I'm going to tell you or give you a warning, try to get through the first part of the week fairly quickly, because this interactive timeline might take you a little bit longer, comparatively speaking. So I want you to look at like the last 50 years, maybe 60 years in each of the course country, and gather some evidence for each of those countries and put them on one big timeline so that we can begin to make comparisons from state to state. Like if you think about it, let's say if I threw China, Iran, China and Iran out there, like the 1949 to 1953, like that early Cold War period, were important times for those 2 countries in particular. Like think about the coup in 1953 in Iran. And there was a big movie that came out recently. Maybe you're interested, you want to watch that. But there was a democratically elected leader named Mossadegh who was overthrown by a CIA coup, and the Shah was put in power. So I'm running out of time, so I'm talking faster, but I just want to emphasize the importance of political events like that. So you're going to create a timeline that you're going to include all of these political events. And when you go in there, one has been created or provided for you. An example has been provided for you. And then the last activity is more fun, listening to the radio in each of these different places to get to understand the culture of the place. Have a good week and contact me with questions.